Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to let everyone know that this session will be recorded. So if you are not able to stay with us for the entire presentation, or if you know somebody who wasn't able to join us tonight, it will be recorded. It will be sent automatically to everyone who registered, whether you did or did not attend. So just keep that in mind. Also, there is a section where you can ask questions, and you're more than welcome to send in your questions our way. I've got several of my amazing colleagues on hand behind the scenes who are going to be typing answers to your questions. Please keep in mind that we have hundreds of people joining us this evening, so we will do our best to get to those questions throughout the presentation. We'll also save some of your questions for the end because we will have some time in the end for a question and answer section. I'm trying to keep this presentation to about 30 minutes or so, 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will have the rest of the hour. And really, as long as you guys would like me to stay here, I'm happy to stay here and answer your questions. As you answer, or as you ask those questions in the text box, you'll see that as they get sent to us, we will send an answer and then poof, it disappears. So we can't actually see your previous questions once they've been answered. Keep that in mind as you send your questions back in. If you have a follow-up question and you say something like, okay, great, what's next? My colleagues will not actually be able to see what the previous question is, so keep that in mind as you're sending those in. And then there will also be a survey at the end. So as we go through the presentation, hopefully we're able to address all of your questions. Hope you're getting super excited for your trip. If we did miss something, or if there's some content that you did not get, please feel free to use that survey at the end, and we will absolutely follow up with you in the next couple of days via email or a phone call, whichever you prefer. I do also want to emphasize that this presentation is for all students heading out to all destination countries around the world. So if you tuned in expecting specific information about your itinerary or your packing list, unfortunately we don't have the capacity to do that. We do, however, have my team, the Global Program Advisors, also our personal travel advisor team that you should all be very familiar with, on hand to answer your questions during the day. Our main office is open 9 to 5, and then we have our phones open to about 9 p.m. Eastern. You can call us anytime. You can chat with us on the website. We are here and happy to answer all of your questions after this presentation. Again, my name is Jessie Wachter. I am one of our Global Program Advisors at Rustic Pathways. I've worked with the company for about 10 years now. It's hard to believe it's gone by so quickly, but I have run programs in Morocco and in India, in Peru, China, Thailand, Mongolia, and I was formerly the director of our Tanzania program, so I have quite a bit of experience running programs working with students from around the world. And again, I'm happy to answer any of and all of your questions throughout this presentation, as well as if you give us a call. And without further ado, I hope you guys are super excited for your summers this year. We already have about 2 departure dates. So we have hundreds of kids that are out across the world beginning their trips, beginning their adventures. And we want to make sure that you, as you prepare for your trip, are as prepared and excited as possible. So one of the big concerns is that you're alone. So you might be traveling on your own, you aren't traveling with a friend, or you aren't quite familiar with the support staff that we have, and we have everything set up to make this a super smooth experience for you. The truth is the vast majority of our students do travel on their own. So most students are venturing off. They've chosen a program that maybe their other friends weren't able to make it, or the scheduling was difficult, or you just recognize that it's so much easier to make friends if you venture off on your own. In my experience, when I've had students land in country, I've been sometimes shocked with the fact that there are brand new best friends that met each other at the airport and chatted it up on the plane down, and suddenly they are, like I said, new best friends, and I had no idea they didn't know each other beforehand. So be open to that experience and know that you're not alone. We also have airport coordinators and flight chaperones and tons of in-country staff all put in place to make this a really smooth and awesome experience for you. I can't underscore enough, know what to expect. I've also had students in my programs that have shown up and they can't even point to a map of where they are in the world. It's shocking. So if there's anything that I can recommend is do your homework. Make sure you read the itinerary, know what to expect. Make sure that you look at a map, look at a globe, and see where you're flying to. I would absolutely encourage you to bring a language book, a little conversations book. to give you some conversational skills and some words to use before you get there. That's the best way to impress your local staff, is to show up already knowing how to say thank you and hello and ask questions. That would be amazing. So those little booklets are super helpful. And then another resource is our blog. So we have both students and alumni, current students and alumni and staff, all submitting blog posts of various content. We have blog posts to help you with packing. We have blog posts referencing our cell phone policies, and that's for both students and parents. We have tons of content on there that you should find super helpful. And also be open if you're a student, if you'd like to send an entry into our blog, we're also super open to that. We love that. On to packing. So this is a big question, and I want to say for each program you will have a specific packing list available on your program page that's going to give you information specifically for your itinerary. There are some general things that we're going to go through with packing that are applicable to all programs. Number one, first and foremost, pack light, pack light, pack light. I cannot underscore that enough. It's so common for students, especially if this is your first or second trip out of the country, to kind of pack this huge bag, and you want to bring all these things just in case to be ready for every possible situation. And it's super heavy, it's hard to carry on your own, you can't even fit it all in your bag. I would recommend go ahead, put everything that you think you want to pack out on the floor, and then take a hard look and examine exactly what you think you need. I recommend with clothing to bring things that you don't mind wearing several days in a row. You don't actually have to pack 7 outfits for your week of 7 days or 10 outfits for your 14-day trip. What I recommend is bringing mix and matchables, so shorts that you think can get dirty and you don't mind wearing 5 days straight if you have to. In some cases, like climbing Kilimanjaro, you're going to be wearing some clothing multiple times, and that is the best way to pack. And you also want to layer. So shorts that are appropriate, as well as a tank top with an additional shirt that can go over that, and maybe a light fleece and a raincoat, so that you can mix and match and dress appropriate to the weather and to the cultural situation. Definitely want to bring up a water bottle or multiple water bottles in case of some itineraries. We will provide as much potable water as possible. And so we will either have filtered or boiled water in some cases, or bottled water on most programs, so that you can have be properly hydrated. Super important, especially while traveling. And I recommend putting that in your carry-on if you can, so you can have water throughout your trip on the airplane. Make sure that you have your passport and appropriate visas. It kind of seems silly, like it goes without being said, but it's often so exciting to travel that students forget to keep their passport on them. And I have had students that have been on a layover as you have possession of your own passport, and you'll be continuing on to your next leg and you can't find your passport because you left it in the seat back on the airplane previous. So I would never recommend doing that. Just make sure that you keep a good eye on your passport at all times, and then know that when you get in country, your leaders are actually going to collect your passport, so that there's very little chance of you misplacing that passport. Super, super valuable document there. We also recommend carrying a copy of your passport, just a facsimile or paper copy of your passport in a separate location, so that if in the event that you do lose your passport, you'll have that copy. It makes it super easy to get a new one in an emergency. As far as spending money goes, this is a really common question, and it's going to depend a little bit on your country, but first and foremost, we will always give the students a chance to exchange money in country. So I recommend bringing a substantial amount of money in cash, and that's going to depend a little bit on the program, but a couple $100s is usually recommended for a 2-week trip. And that way, cash is always exchangeable. You'll have that on you. We will, in some locations, provide safes. In other locations, we will not. So that's something that you can look into. Give us a call. You should have some information in the FAQs on your program page, or your personal travel advisors can help you out with that. But we will always alert students on how to properly manage their money and keep it safe. But I do recommend US dollars as the best method in most countries. That's going to be a real easy way to get the local currency. a lot of people will ask, well, okay, what about credit cards and ATM cards? So this, again, really depends on the country. If you're traveling to Australia or to China, the Visa or credit card may work just fine. The Australia ATMs are pretty reliable and pretty pervasive. If you're traveling to a country like Tanzania, the ATMs are actually not that common and not all that reliable. So you may bring a debit card along with you, and you know that it has money and you know that you can access it, and for some reason it's just not working in the machine. That's actually not all that uncommon. So I would not rely on credit cards or debit cards. You can bring them for a backup. And worst case scenario, at Rustic Pathways, we'll always make sure that your students have access to money, but we don't want to get in a situation where we're having to contact parents at home and parents are having to wire money to the office. It's a huge mess. Just make sure that before you go, you know approximately how much money you should need for your particular program. For in-country add-on activities, and this is for very specific programs, there'll be certain activities such as skydiving, usually the larger activities, or let's see, some side trips for some programs. This you may pay as an invoice. You may decide that you want to do a side trip with your friends once you get in country. This is something that you can contact your family. Your family can will be invoiced by your personal travel advisor, and they can pay it at home. So you don't have to carry hundreds and hundreds of dollars with you to do those extra side trips or add-on activities. We do recommend bringing a camera. You guys are going to be traveling to some of the most beautiful places in the world, and a camera is always a great thing to bring along to document your program. Oftentimes we'll get the question, what about my phone? Can I bring a phone? What if I use my phone for a camera? There are going to be very specific times in which you can and can't use your phone. And I'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation as far as our cell phone policy. But just in case, if you're really wanting to take a lot of pictures in the program, I would bring along a little disposable camera or a little point and shoot camera if you don't have one already. So that's a little bit easier method of taking pictures than wondering if you're going to be able to use your phone at that time. And then the next question is appropriate clothing. So this is going to be another thing that I'm going to have you reference your packing list on the program page. What is appropriate clothing for your program? But one of the biggest questions we get, and if you're not looking at your screen right now, if you're listening to us just audibly, I encourage you to look at this next slide because this is one of our top questions. How short can my shorts be? And this goes for both guys and girls. We're going to be traveling in some more conservative areas, and we definitely want to make sure that we are being respectful to the local culture and the local community, and we understand that we are there as their guests, and we want to respect them. So here's some great examples of what would be appropriate shorts. You can wear capri pants, like you see the bottom middle one. You can wear looser shorts that are a little bit longer, and athletic shorts. I usually say basketball shorts or hiking shorts are appropriate length. Running shorts are often too short these days. They're not going to make the cut. And leggings are also not appropriate for more conservative villages. So if you're traveling to places like Thailand or Tanzania, or really a lot of our countries where you're going to be working in village areas, we just want to make sure that our students are appropriately dressed for that village. One thing I usually point out, if you're in doubt, if you have a pair of shorts that you just absolutely love and you know you're going to be going to a beach, there are going to be times where you can wear shorts, such as those jean shorts you see in the bottom corner, on the beach, for example, on a boat, something like that. But if you know that you're going to be in some more conservative areas in the villages, bring both. Always have an alternative so that you don't get caught kind of in a situation where you don't have something to wear that is appropriate, and we have to kind of find a sarong to wrap around you or something like that. I'd rather you guys be comfortable and wearing clothes that you feel good about and that are also respectful to the local culture. Hopefully that's helpful. One more thing about what is appropriate to bring. We often get questions about the size of the duffel bag. We recommend up to about 70 liters. You certainly don't need 70 liters in a lot of these programs. It is going to come down to exactly what you're doing. If you're climbing Kilimanjaro, you may need a little bit more gear than if you're just going to be spending some time at a base house, and you can get by with a lot smaller bag. But we do recommend a duffel bag with shoulder straps or back straps, because while wheels are very useful in the airport, they aren't as useful on gravel or dirt paths, which is a lot of the places that you're going to be traveling, and you are responsible for carrying your own luggage to and from different places. If you're expecting to drag them, it's going to be a lot more difficult. If you can kind of hoist that up on your shoulder or your back, it's going to make life a lot easier. So we do recommend a duffel bag or a backpack if you can, or at least a suitcase that has sort of a shoulder strap that you can lift up if you need to. So what not to bring? Again, too much stuff. I see this hat we've got here with the beanie. Quite honestly, I'm okay with that as long as it's not a distraction. I'm okay if you want to bring your propeller hat. Probably no on the shark shoes, but just take a hard look at what you're packing and make sure that you're not bringing too much stuff that you're really not going to need and not going to use. Inappropriate clothing, again, I think we've kind of gone over that. Laptops and tablets, just leave these at home. I know a lot of students will ask about, what about a Kindle or what about a tablet if I'm going to read books on the plane? It's okay if you want to bring a Kindle, but just know that it's more of a risk of either dropping it or getting it dirty or losing it. We don't always have safes. Like I said, there's going to be certain places that do and certain places that don't. We want to minimize the risk. So just bring what you think is absolutely necessary. And remember, you're going to be flying for international destinations with a lot of other students. So you'll have plenty of time to either watch the movies that are provided or be making friends. I don't think that a laptop or a tablet is necessary. And then finally, and actually most importantly, no drugs, no alcohol, and no cigarettes. So this is a hard and fast rule. Everyone has signed a participant enrollment agreement form before you leave, and you'll also sign a pledge when you land. These are black and white rules. So just so that everybody that's tuning in with us tonight knows, if you are caught with drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, there's no questions about it. There's no situational exceptions. You will be sent home at the cost of your parents. And I don't think anybody enjoys that scenario. So let's make sure that we keep those at home. I just want to stop here, take a quick breath, and point out that for those of you that have still been joining us, we will be recording this. For those of you that are working with your personal travel advisor, every family has been assigned a personal travel advisor, whether you've worked with them or not. Know that they are there as your resource, but also I just want to put a little PSA out there for our PTAs that they are amazing and wonderful. They have the answers to all of your questions. However, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays, our office is swamped. We have lots of communication coming in over the weekends. We have lots of students that are excited and preparing and have tons of questions leading up to their departure. So the earlier that you can get your questions to your personal travel advisor, or absolutely use us as your global program advisors that are on the main line as you call in, the easier it is to help you. Please be patient with your PTAs and know that if it takes sometimes a day or two to get back to you, there are occasionally urgent situations that will pull them away from their normal day-to-day tasks. So just keep that in mind as you're sending your last-minute questions and don't always get an answer just back in an hour or so. Also, we have hundreds of people on the line right now, so I know that as you guys send your questions in, we also have 4 or 5 of my colleagues answering questions behind the scenes. If we're not getting to your question, it means we're either going to address it during this presentation or we are going to leave room for you at the end of the presentation for the question and answer section. So, awesome. Next slide. So, what to expect on travel days. Many of you are coming right up on the day you're about to join us, and I do want to just express that I understand that a lot of this content is geared towards international students. A lot of this will also be applicable to our students that are traveling to the United States, but for travel days, maybe not so much, as you won't be joining our group flights, but you will be meeting your staff at the airport. So forgive me if some of this content seems like it's not towards our US students. Again, if you have any questions, happy to help at the end there. Make sure on travel days to wear your Rustic Pathways t-shirt. We have gone to great lengths to make our t-shirts not only cool and stylish, but also super comfortable. So they should be perfect to wear on your travel days. They're great to sit for many, many, many hours in an airplane, but most importantly, they make it easy for you to be spotted in the airport. So it makes it great for your staff that are picking you up if you're arriving into the airport in your destination country. If your meeting is at our hub airport in the United States, it makes it easy for you to spot other students and all that jazz. So please make sure that you wear your t-shirt there and keep it so it's not super muddy or dirty so that you can wear it on the way back, because the same thing applies. You're going to put that t-shirt back on, and on that travel day you're all going to kind of travel in your green or blue t-shirts so that you can keep together as a group and make sure that you can find each other. I always pack snacks. I'm a huge fan of snacks all day, every day, but make sure that you bring some of your own snacks for the flight day, because it can be a long, depending on where you're traveling to, a long flight. Again, make sure you pack that water bottle and some spending money for the airport. I always also bring an extra pair of socks, extra pair of underwear, things that maybe if your bag gets misplaced on the flight, which can happen on these trips, that you have an extra just in case. Put that in your carry-on. Locate your airport coordinator and flight chaperones. So for students that are flying to international destinations, you're going to find your airport coordinator, who's one of our staff members that stays on the outside of security. They're going to be located at the international check-in desk at the airport. Your flight chaperones will as well. So everybody's going to meet there. If you get there, and maybe you get there early and they're not there at the moment, it could be that they're just assisting another student who's lost or trying to get to where they need to be, which is why they're there in the airport. Go ahead and hang out at that international check-in desk. That is the main area in which all students will meet for all flights at all hub airports. We recommend that you bring a deck of cards. Again, some of these flight days are pretty long. It's a great way to make new friends. Meet your fellow travelers, make friends. There's sometimes students get into the airports 4, 5, 6 hours early, depending on what your flight path was. So kick back, get comfortable, set up a little group area, and make sure that you are kind of open to meeting those friends even before you get into country. And then, of course, use the buddy system. So if you are checked in and you've spoken to your airport coordinator and your chaperones and you need to step away and kind of check out the shops or get something to eat, make sure that you're with another student. So at any point you can find your way back. Okay, so our cell phone policy. This is something we get questioned a lot, and we have a variety of opinions from our families as to what that should necessarily be. As a company, Rustic Pathways really wants to encourage our students to be as disconnected as possible. It's such a rare experience these days, especially for those of us that do reside within the United States, to not have constant digital connection. And there's so many things out there with social media, and we're really trying to encourage students to get the most out of their experience, to really fully be present. So if you can leave your cell phone home, awesome. We are huge fans of that. If you want to bring your cell phone along, we don't disallow that. It can be very useful for travel days, especially to meet up with your family on the back end when you return. However, as I mentioned, there will be very specific times during the trip that you're allowed to use your phone. You cannot use your phone during group activities, during meals, certainly not within the villages. We're working with the local communities. So we do want to emphasize that this is some of you guys are going to the most amazing places in the world, and I'm so excited for you to experience that. We want to make sure that you see that with your eyes and not through the lens, if that makes sense. Now, that being said, the next slide is communication with home. So for some of you parents out there, this is super exciting to offer that type of experience to your student. For some of you, it may make you a little wary because you want to make sure that your student's having a good time, that they're healthy and happy. We do have a 24-hour emergency hotline. So at any time, if there's an emergency on your end, if you need to get in touch with us any time of the day or night, you can reach somebody from our emergency line, and we can then get you in contact with your student's leaders or your student if necessary. We also send safe arrival emails. So as soon as every group lands in country, we make sure that they've collected their bags and they've got everything and they're on their way safely to their accommodations. We will send an email out. Now, a little caveat there. There are times, for example, if the students land at 11 a.m., it may take an hour or two for them to get through customs. There may be one of the students' bag was misplaced, so we're at the airport just making sure that we get that all taken care of. And then it takes about an hour or so, 45 minutes to drive to their hotel. know that if your student's airplane landed at 11 a.m., you may not get that email at 11:10 a.m. You may get that email a couple hours later. That's okay. We're just making sure that we have everything sorted, we've got all the students, and we can give updates to parents if we need to. And then as far as Wi-Fi connectivity, this is going to vary greatly depending on the program. Again, it's not something that we really encourage, so we do not offer Wi-Fi at our base houses. There are some programs that will be staying at hotels that may offer Wi-Fi, so that's kind of a case-by-case basis. You can contact us later tomorrow, give us a call, or contact your PTA to find out whether there's Wi-Fi. This is also often listed in the FAQs of your program page, but either way, there are ways to find out. We do recommend, though, any students that are listening, if you can, kind of keep that to a minimum and know that you're not going to necessarily be connected to Snapchat or Instagram or what have you on your trip, and then you're more than welcome to post away when you get home. So on these trips, we want you to be ready to make new friends. Obviously, I've mentioned that several times. It's a big aspect. You're going to be, we actually, as a company, we're about 20% international students right now and growing, which is an awesome, awesome dynamic to the program. Not only are you going to meet students from all around the United States, North America, Canada, Mexico, but from more than 60 different countries. We had students traveling with us in 2016, which is incredible. So while the programs are run in English, you're going to be meeting students from all different cultures as you experience a new culture together. It's a pretty awesome experience. I encourage you to be open to trying new foods. This is also something that's a real benefit to these programs. We don't force you to try anything too crazy, but we do highly encourage you. If there's some bugs on the menu, it'll never be the main course, but it'll sometimes be offered as something students are able to try if you want to. If you're in Thailand, you're going to be feasting on a plethora of amazing noodle dishes, and we have oftentimes private chefs, and we've put a lot of time into creating the whole experience, and a big part of that is the food. So be open to trying new foods. Learn a new language. Again, if you could bring one of those phrase books with you, if you can bring along a few phrases that you've already practiced and learned, and you can surprise your local staff, that's awesome and a great way to begin the program. Remember to go with the flow, and this just means that there are going to be times where we do have very specific itineraries on the website for a reason. We are going to follow those itineraries to a T, except there might be a time when weather, for example, there's a time that we want you to go ziplining, but instead it's pouring rain. Well, we are going to remain somewhat adaptable and switch that ziplining to another day and trade that for an indoor activity or something like that. So be flexible, make sure you go with the flow, and know that this is the nature of travel. And then finally, challenge yourself. Y'all are heading out across the world, and that's a big step in the right direction. But all of the above kind of lends itself to just challenging yourself. Be open to all the new experiences, be open to new people from different cultures that you may not have necessarily gravitated towards in school, but this is your chance to kind of meet friends from all different perspectives. Challenge yourself. So our donations policy, this is another big question. We have students all the time with these big, huge golden hearts, and you're interested in bringing something along with you. We can provide a specific list of donations, and this will be sent to you from our in-country teams. But I also want to underscore that there are times when we have students that want to bring, let's say, 100 toothbrushes because their father's a dentist, and they want to bring that for the local villages. While this is an awesome, awesome idea, and we really do commend the interest in helping the local community, we also want to kind of point out that this may affect the local economy in different ways. There may be a local toothbrush salesman who then doesn't have people to buy toothbrushes from him for the next 6 months or so, and that affects his own income. So keep that in mind when you're looking at providing a specific donation. We will have a list of things that we have identified that could help the community. And another great way is to bring monetary donation. You can bring that with you to your village, and with your own eyes kind of assess, and with the help of your leaders, of course, assess what might be a good purchase. And maybe there's a school library that's missing a whole set of textbooks, and that's something that you can put your money towards. So I encourage you to kind of hold off on assessing what might be a good use to the community until you're actually there in country, and you can work with our leaders to find the best fit. And then, of course, we have the Rustic Pathways Foundation. This is something that you can work with all year round. We have students that are fundraising for various projects. You can donate directly to the foundation in general, but you can also make donations to specific programs or projects. So that's something to look into as well. rusticpathways.org. And then welcome home, post-trip survey. So you probably have already received a survey from us. There's a three-pronged survey system that we have put in place last year. We are trying to assess the impact that we have on our students for both service programs, adventure programs, the growth experience, how you enjoyed the program, what you learned. So if you can really take this seriously, I cannot, again, underscore this enough. I know I've said that several times, but that's why you're tuning in. Hopefully you take part in that pre-trip survey. That gives us a starting point to sort of begin that foundation. And then we'll send you a post-trip survey after you return home, and there'll be one more survey that comes usually about 6 months, I believe, after you return, just to kind of get a gauge on that progress. We're really trying to implement and create a system that allows us to develop these programs to the best impact that we have on these students, and you are directly a part of that, so we absolutely encourage your participation. We have a hashtag SoRustic contest, and this takes place on Instagram. We recommend that if you're taking pictures throughout the trip, we will not accept any posts that take place during the program. So that's just to kind of, again, reiterate the emphasis that we want you to be present while in country, and then those pictures you can post afterwards, as many as you can. We will be giving away an awesome prize every single week to one photo every single week, and then we'll have a grand prize at the end of the summer, which is one all expenses paid trip. So 100% full paid trip to one awesome photo at the end of the summer. So keep that in mind as you're capturing images that really represent and reflect your experience. And then two more things I want to talk about: the Rustic Squad and our development ambassadors. So these are two incredible ways for you as students to remain involved and engaged with us throughout the year. If you had an awesome time in your program, which I hope that's everybody, these are two ways that you can continue to be involved. The Rustic Squad is essentially our brand ambassadors. So this is perfect for the student who had an amazing trip, they want to stay involved. You are basically our focus group for many of our big decisions, so the student voice of the company. We will expect you, there's an application process for both of these groups. We do expect you to remain active. There's going to be some a Facebook group, there's going to be some emails sent out, we'll have polls, and this is your way to sort of give us feedback and what you'd like to see, different program ideas, for example, if you have awesome program ideas, or if we want to try some new programming, things like that. This is your way to be a part of that group and that voice, and part of our Rustic community. And then our development ambassadors, this is working through the foundation to raise money and raise awareness about many of our projects. So through the foundation, you'll learn actually fundraising tips from experts in international development, and then you'll fundraise for a project of your choice. You'll receive support in your efforts, including setting up events in your community, and even there's going to be some cool rewards as you reach your benchmark. So this is more about fundraising and learning about how that's involved, and learning from experts, which is a really awesome opportunity. And now, hopefully we answered all of your questions and you are ready to go, right? No more questions? Just kidding. So we have some time. Thank you again. I want to say, if you're tuning out now, thank you again for joining us. We now have as much time as you possibly could need for questions and answers. I'm going to turn to my list here. I've got a question here about where to find the packing list. So I'm going to actually pop out of my screen here for a moment, pull up the packing list. This is our Serengeti to Zanzibar page. It's a Tanzania program, one of my favorites. If you scroll down here, there's always going to be a photo, a basic introduction to the program, and then you've got these tabs here. They could be tricky because they're the same color, but you can actually find the full day-to-day itinerary, a huge list of FAQs, and the packing list is going to be right there. And then you can also find a map if you're looking to take a look at where you're traveling. So those are all really useful tabs to know about your program. Another question about leggings. So again, this is something where if you are in doubt, give us a call. We can come walk through that. Also bring an alternative. In many places, in many of the small villages, leggings are just not appropriate. They're too skin tight and they're not in line with the local dress. And so we want to make sure, again, that our communities feel comfortable with our students feel comfortable within those communities. So make sure that you bring a looser pair of athletic pants or capris or loose shorts or skirts, or there's a lot of options for you. But leggings are just unfortunately not appropriate in many of our conservative areas. Great question. Should I pack a med kit? I recommend bringing a med kit of your own. Just a small one is fine with some basic Neosporin, Band-Aids, eye drops, things like that. Our staff will always carry a very comprehensive med kit. So if you don't bring anything, you're going to be just fine. But if you have something that if you do cut your foot while you're running around playing soccer, something like that, you can address it yourself. That's always nice to have on hand, but not necessary. Questions about visas for your program. So this information was sent to you in your welcome letter, the email that you get just after you enroll. You can also find visa information in your portal. And we do get lots of questions about a portal, so I'll talk about that in a moment. But all of these resources can be found in your portal. We partner with a company called G3 that actually helps students and families get passports. They can do it in an expedited service. They also help you get visas. So if you are going to countries such as India, China, Australia, I think I'm missing one, but there are a couple countries that do require visas in advance. You want to make sure that you're aware of that and you do that with plenty of time. Australia, just so you know, is about I think it's about a 3-day process, and that's all done online, so you have a little bit of leeway there. But India and China can take quite a bit of time, so you want to make sure you do that in advance. Oh, and the portal link is also found in your welcome letter. So the portal link is going to be in there as well as a PIN number. In order to log in, you just click that link and you're going to need the student's birth date and your PIN number, and that's all located in your welcome letter. Vaccinations, another great question. So vaccinations, as a company, as Rustic Pathways, we are not medical professionals. We cannot actually give recommendations as far as what to use or not. We can let you know what is absolutely required for entry. For example, if there's a country that is requiring a yellow fever vaccination, we will let you know you need to get that in order to travel there. After that, we recommend that you check out the cdc.gov website, cdc.gov. That's going to be the most up-to-date information. You will also have access to the HX Global directory, so they're going to have a lot of information about where your students are traveling, as well as clinics and doctors. That can be very helpful, and consulting a travel doctor. Those are kind of our top recommendations for learning about what vaccinations are possible, and then we will let you know if there's something absolutely necessary for travel. All right, so keep your questions coming if I haven't addressed anything. Do you need to pack your own sunscreen or bug spray? So same thing with the med kits. We definitely recommend bringing your own bug spray and sunscreen. These are two vital ingredients to your luggage, especially depending on where you're traveling to. There's going to be some places that are a little bit more buggy than others, but we will also have some on hand if you did forget it. So if you don't have your own, that's okay, but we want to make sure that some students are bringing their own so they can apply it whenever they need to. And on travel days, how early should I arrive to the airport? We ask that students that are flying into their hub airports arrive 4 hours early. If you're driving in, we also ask that you arrive 4 hours early for your flight. That being said, if you're a little bit under that, that's okay. The key here is that if you're flying, we want to make sure that you have enough buffer time if your flight to that hub airport is delayed. And believe me, that is not as uncommon as you would imagine. It happens every single summer. And if you've only given yourself just enough time to kind of get to the gate and get checked in for your next flight, you're going to be in a panic if your flight's delayed. So give yourself enough buffer time to keep it a nice, calm experience. 4 hours is a good amount of time. If you're driving, we realize that 4 hours sounds like a lot of time to be there early. A lot of international flights now are asking that students actually check in 3 hours early. So 3 hours is the bare minimum. 4 hours, remember, it's not as bad as it sounds because there's going to be a lot of other students. Your whole group will be there checked in as well. And it's a great time to, like I said, sit down, play some games of cards, get to know your fellow students, and hang out before you fly. Oh, great question. Question about outlets. So again, this varies depending on your destination country. Google's a great reference for that. They can tell you. But my personal recommendation is to look for a universal adapter. These are pretty darn cheap. You can find them on Amazon for 12, 15 bucks. And then you actually have the adapter for any outlet for no matter where you travel the rest of your travels. I actually have a universal adapter that I bought from Radio Shack, which is defunct maybe 15 years ago or so, and it's still working just fine for all the countries that I've traveled to. So a universal adapter, I think, is the best way to go, and then you don't have to worry about whether you had the right adapter or not. Here's a question about getting in touch with your group leaders before the program, and we don't have a way for you to do that for a couple of reasons. One is our staff actually get into country several weeks before students land. They're involved in online training as well as in-country training, and they are focused on preparing for the summer. And they're also going to be running trips throughout the summer. Most staff are going to be running trips for at least 6 to 8 weeks throughout the summer. So there's not a way to really get in touch with them now. They're all in country preparing for your students' arrival, and they're going to meet them when they land. Our flight chaperones are separate from our flight leaders. We have full-time staff that are acting as flight chaperones. I will actually be flight chaperoning from JFK to Thailand, July 25th. So if any of you are traveling then, I am excited to meet you. Come say hi. But yes, we have many of our full-time staff that act as flight chaperones, and then your leaders are already in country, anxiously awaiting your arrival. Another question about spending money. So this is a question that you can find usually in the FAQs on your program page. You can also, please feel free to give us a call or a chat anytime about recommendations. Typically, I say about $100 a week, but this greatly depends on your spending habits. We want to make sure that you have enough money for souvenirs, snacks if you want them. If there's any sort of little clinic visit that you need to make, pick something up, eye drops, whatever have you, you may need a little extra money. So I would say about $100 a week on average. But again, if you're doing a program where there's going to be a lot of shopping, a lot of markets, and you intend to buy gifts for your whole family of 12, then you might need a little bit more. Awesome. Great question about flight information. So a lot of you are anxiously awaiting getting your flight itinerary. We typically send this information out about a week before you travel. This email is a really important email to keep an eye out for. It comes about a week before you depart. It will have your flight itinerary. It will have emergency contact information. It'll have information specific to your airport and all of that really relevant information. It's a great email to actually print out and carry with you. And it's going to have time-sensitive information. So we don't send it out too early because we want to make sure in case there are any changes, if you're an unaccompanied minor, for example, we want to make sure that you have the information that you need at that time. So we send it a little bit later on to make sure that there are no updates. It comes about a week before you depart. We actually have a page called rusticpathways.com/forms, and this is a great place if you can't find the consented travel form that has been sent to you from your personal travel advisor. You can find that in your portal, and you can also find it on our forum page, rusticpathways.com/forms. Another great resource is rusticpathways.com/getready. So this is going to have a lot of information about packing, tips from some of our expert travelers, pro tips, some interesting literature, blog posts. rusticpathways.com/getready. That link, if you don't have a pen with you, that link is also in your portal. So just keep in mind, all of this information is sort of aggregated in your portal. If you can hop in there, you're going to find visa information, you're going to find your invoice, resources for you to check out before your trip. It's all there. Let's see if we've got any more questions. I know we've covered a lot of information here. Again, please feel free to give us a call. I'm going to go right back to this slide about shorts just to kind of give you a visual. Some looser hiking shorts. You can find these this clothing at REI, at any sort of local sporting goods shops. They're going to sell hiking shorts and basketball shorts. Those are where you can find some of these articles. And Amazon, Title IX, those kinds of companies also have some great options. Question about, can you bring a nice camera? Yes, absolutely. This is something that is a common question. We recommend, if you're into photography, to check out our photography programs, specifically working with photography leaders. But all of our programs go to beautiful places, as I mentioned, and we recommend bringing whatever camera you feel comfortable with. That being said, it's just like a tablet. It is something that you're going to have to keep track of and make sure that you keep safe. So I recommend bringing a nice carrying case that you can kind of zip up and keep the dust out. And you'll have to keep track of that yourself. But yeah, absolutely. If you want to take pictures, I wholeheartedly support that. Question about whether you can give valuables to leaders. So this kind of goes back to having a safe. Our leaders specifically are not going to carry these things on them. They will have a safe place to put their passports, and all of our programs, the leaders are going to collect your passports, and each place will have an area in which they can keep those safe. But after that, depending on where you're at, you may have access to a safe for valuables or for money, and you may not. So give us a call or send your PTA an email. We can kind of find out what is available for your particular program. For the most part, yes, you will need to keep this on you. I recommend bringing one of those little money packs or something that you can kind of keep in a safe place in your luggage. We'll always have locks on your doors and things like that, except in the case of some homestays. So there is some variety on some programs, and just be aware of your particular itinerary. And yes, absolutely. Can you bring your own snacks and bars? Again, I highly recommend it. I'm a huge fan of having my own little home snack. As much as I love food from around the world, every once in a while on a rainy day or a late night, I want a bite of chocolate they may not have in the local country. So although I've also had bad experiences where that melts, so keep that in mind. Yeah, bring your own snacks if you'd like. I don't think you're going to need a whole bag of snacks, which, believe it or not, I've had students bring before. So keep that in mind. I think snacks for travel days and for 1 or 2 days within the itinerary is just fine. All right, do we have any more pressing questions? Again, I just want to reiterate, if we didn't get to your question, I'm going to take a few more questions here, but if we didn't get to it during this presentation, if I did not speak about it on the presentation, we will absolutely follow up with you in the next couple of days. Part of the survey is to let us know what we didn't address, and let us know if you'd like to be contacted via email or phone. So please utilize that. And I'll give you another minute or two for any more pressing questions. And also just thank you so much for joining us. I think we went a little bit long, but I hope that means that you're all satisfied and got a lot out of this. I really appreciate you joining us, and wish you guys an amazing, amazing trip. You're about to venture out into the world, and I'm envious. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening.